Hello, hello. How's it going, everyone? Hope you're all good. Here we go. I hope everyone's doing well. It's Monday, obviously. So I figured we would start the week with 4 relatively straightforward poses. There's very little to almost no foreshortening. So there you go. You know, we're just to break into the. I think these would be really good actually for those of you who are starting out on your journey or have not been doing as much figure drawing, say, because I think these poses will be quite handleable. So with that said, we've got 4 poses in total. So, you know, we're probably going to go a minimum of 20 minutes a piece, would be my guess. And we'll take it from there. All right. Let me, that'll help. And I will start the timer. Let's plan on about 20 for this first one. You know how it goes. The usual. All right. And there's our timer. Yeah, they are nice poses. Yeah, we've drawn her. You know, it may or may not be who you're thinking, Lulu. We've only drawn her once before. But she's great. There's actually, you know, when I was going through the poses for today, I realized there's so many killer poses from this set that it's one of those where I was thinking, yeah, we're probably going to draw her again sooner rather than later. Okay, so we're looking at a back pose here. Occipital ridge is going to be about there. This is probably a little long here and here. I think our shoulder line will be about here. But yeah, I think they're pretty straightforward, user-friendly poses. Heavy humerus. This scapula is sitting about here. Center line. This bit of compression on this scapula, right? Just a little bit. And when I say compression, I mean because her arm is getting pushed back, it's pushing the scapula towards the center of the form. Got obviously a left supporting leg. Sitting in here. Like that. Canvas, good luck with your CT scan. Hopefully, hopefully it will go fine. I actually had an MRI the other day myself. Those things are long. It's like 45 minutes. It's like, and you know, you're lying there for what feels like forever, and then they're like, yeah, you know. And I'm thinking, okay, we must be almost done. And then they come over the little speaker things. They're like, yeah, we'll be done. You know, we're halfway through, 25 more minutes. It's like, you're kidding me. I guess at least if there's any consolation, CT scans tend to be quicker. But best of luck with that, Canvas. All right, just lock in. And we've got this hand kind of sitting right just above the wrist is connecting right above the iliac crest, kind of on the oblique. Emmanuel, I feel out of place with my drawing tablet in this group. Well, here's the thing, Emmanuel. Would drawing on paper be far, far superior? Yes, of course. You know that. I know that. That's a given. But is drawing on a tablet an upgrade from cave painting? Maybe. So you have that. Right? Oh, James, thank you. That's very kind of you. It's much appreciated. Really, genuinely. Thank you. Something like that. Obviously, she's got her hair in a bun too. Must say, I do appreciate when the model has the hair in the bun. Arguably the most straightforward hair design to draw. Also, you know what's nice about the bun is it really helps give a simple kind of orientation for the head direction. Right? So it's really, yeah, it's useful. Art and handwriting family. Thanks for the compliment. I'm a Bangladeshi painter. I like your drawing. Thank you so much. Iliotibial tract coming down this way, right? Coming off the gluteus maximus and the tensor fasciae latae, and they kind of meet up. And then they run down the leg this way, and it helps give the side of the leg, and then we have the back of the leg where the bulk of the hamstring is in there and there. All right. Balik says, how do you set the line weight? How do I answer that? I'm not 100% sure if I understand the question, but obviously we're basically at this stage in the drawing, you know, we're trying to work as lightly as we can, really. Within, to some extent, we're also, you have to keep in mind that we're also very kind of sneakily building up some subtle, what will end up being some subtle halftone in this process, and working like this gives us that halftone for free. So, but you definitely don't want to start off drawing too hard. You want to try and hold off and until you're really sure where you want to commit something to. And then that way we can avoid hopefully having to pick up the eraser too often. Got this slight, subtle bit of weight down by the elbow, just in that region. Halftone is not free, it's a prior investment. Very good. Yes, you're right. When you're right, Lulu. But it's kind of like one of those things, it's like interest. You feel like you're getting, you know, you feel like you're getting it for free. Because it's, you know, if it's part of the process, it's not conscious stage, so to speak, then it's a very nice thing. that in there. Yes, I agree, Lulu. A lot of style in this pose. It's one of those poses that, you know, at first glance you go, oh yeah, it's a quiet pose, not a whole lot going on, and then it's like it kind of reveals itself slowly. And you see all the different ideas. Time to finally stock up on some charcoal. I feel a bit unsure what I really need though. It seems like Richard's mostly using a soft charcoal pencil. Okay, Emmanuel, I'm going to help you out. Not that I would ever abandon digital. And here's the thing. I would not expect you to abandon digital. I think this obviously it was in jest, as I'm sure you gathered. There's absolutely a place for a digital workflow and a digital process, especially in today's day and age of production art all being done in a digital pipeline, etc. So no, don't abandon your digital workflow at all. But I do strongly maintain, as someone who has spent I would say arguably quite a bit of time working digitally in my day job, there is a level of subtlety which is an order of magnitude more available to us working with traditional media than you will ever get from working with digital. In my opinion, it makes digital drawing feel incredibly clumsy. When you can work well with things like charcoal. So here's all you need. All you need, Emmanuel, is a nice soft, if you want to, you know, assuming that you want to follow along to some degree with my process, I'm using a 6B General's charcoal pencil on smooth newsprint. Now the paper is as important as the pencil, and finding the marriage between the right paper and the right pencil is half the battle. You have the best pencil in the world on the wrong paper, it's going to seem off, it's not going to work right. Consequently, you could be working on the most expensive paper in the world. If you don't have it matched with the right pencil, it's never going to work. So at least for me and my style, I found the smooth newsprint and the Generals. We'll start with the Generals 6B charcoal pencils. I see some people prefer Contes. Okay, fine. If you like the Contes, I personally I don't care for them. But that's not to say that you shouldn't use them. You will hopefully, in your journey with drawing, you will work with an awful lot of different types of pencils. Maybe you'll find, okay, Conte are working for me. And then you decide, well, I really want to try the smooth newsprint. And then you get the smooth newsprint and you go, you know what? Maybe the Conte isn't the best fit. Or maybe it is. Anyway. That's my feeling. A bit of sass in that gesture. Yeah, right? Just enough. Charcoal is just a good out of comfort zone type practice because it's really uncomfortable. You see, this is where experience will change your perspective potentially. I personally find working with charcoal far easier and far more comfortable than drawing digitally. So, you know, just really whatever you're used to is going to be the one that you gravitate towards. Understandably. Let's find some of these shadows. Because once again, we're going to describe quite a bit of anatomical form just with light and tone as well. Rick asks, hey Rick, what are we seeing here on the back of her left knee, pulling up to the buttocks? Her left knee, pulling up to the buttocks. Is that a hamstring attaching on the inside? Okay, so what we got basically is in this region in here, this is actually the calf muscle, right? Attaching above the knee. The knee is here. And the calf is attaching above the knee to the femur. And then what we have basically going on here is attaching down here on the side, on this side and on the other side is our hamstrings kind of coming down and creating some bulk in there. Along with the gracilis, which is coming down, there's a bunch of stuff that's attaching around the knee. But that's essentially what's going on in that region, if that makes sense. And then obviously the hamstrings attaching up to the pelvis behind the gluteus there. Shadow coming off here. Alright, let's add some of this rough tone on the back here. So now we are essentially what we call shadow mapping. Where we're basically just finding that very, very basic relationship of what is in light and what is in shadow. in some tone. Keeping things generally in the same tonal value for right now. Remember, what's of the first order of business? You only have one order of business at this point in the drawing. What is in light and what is in shadow. In the most simplest ideas, if you squinted. Forget about halftones, forget about cast shadows, forget about extra dark bits and pieces. Just what is in light and what is in shadow. That's all we need at this stage in the drawing for a really clear read. It would help if I hadn't had half the drawing all smudged, but apart from that. And it's going to give us the strongest possible read. Then we can start thinking about how we want to subdivide some of those ideas. Finding slightly darker darks or lighter lights. Okay, so now we're thinking cast shadow. Cast shadow is going to be a bit darker. Coming through there, for example. All right. Got some cast shadow under here. This is quite dark. Let's do a little bit of blending. Now we can start blending in maybe a few little halftones into the lit side of the form, which is kind of what I'm doing now, just using my finger to kind of help, hopefully, model form just a little bit more, you know, thinking in terms of halftones. But what then we want to avoid doing is, you know, pick a side, pick either the lit side of the form or the dark or the shadow side of the form in which to incorporate more halftone. If you do it on both sides, it just gets incredibly busy. So in a pose like this, if I'm going to put halftones into the lit side of the form, I'm going to generally keep the shadow side of the form in a single or two tonal range, you know, like cast shadow, or and then a medium kind of tone for the rest of what's in shadow. That makes sense. Now I'm going to go in with the eraser, because like there's a lot of areas that are really smudged around here which we need to pull the shadow back out of. All right. Hey Mila, no worries. Control the best legs aligned. Thank you, Camille. That's very, very kind. I'll take it. Why not? Excuse me. All right, let's Let's just go in with the eraser now and just, yeah, we're almost done. Really very, very close. But like little areas where we can maybe model, as I said, in this area here. See, just even something like that. See how it just helps model the form? It's subtle. But it does help. See the way also what I love about the kneaded eraser going in at this point is it really brings, it can bring lovely texture to the skin. It's also nice, and you don't want to overdo this, but sometimes to just kind of blend from the lit side into the shadow. You see, just like that, real subtle. It just gives it some texture. Right, I think we're close. All right, leave it there. We're 30 minutes. Hey Akram, welcome back, and thank you so much for the gifted memberships. Awesome, awesome, guys. Now you're members, please go to the community chat tab on my channel, find the link, and you will find the reference hosted on my website, so you can draw along. That's where it's at. But good to have you guys along for the ride. There you go. Nice one, Lulu. Cool. All right. First pose in the bag. Now, the next pose, as I recall, is a front view. Not a million miles from what we just drew. As I said, I think today it's important that we just kind of, you know, you could even call it kind of going back to basics. Once again, some lovely ideas and shapes to be had. So hopefully we can do them justice. Hopefully. It's the idea anyway, right? There we go. Reset the clock. Actually, I'm switching from coffee to tea. All right, let's do it. Are we going to vet these new members? Well, we will obviously keep them in quarantine for 2 weeks, just to make sure. You know what? Anyone that's, I think that just the process of having to buy a membership is, by very definition, a vetting in its own right. We're going to assume everyone's cool unless proven otherwise. General Chocolate are driving me mad. You know, Mila, I warned you. Don't tell me you weren't warned. Yeah. They're not what they used to be. They are certainly not what they used to be. Yeah. Well, the glue is expected. It's the little, it's the scratchiness that is the frustrating development with the generals. You know, Mila, don't feel like you can't make a complaint to generals. Margot did that on my behalf, actually. And they sent her free pencils. So, might be worth a complaint. I love the rhythmical nature of this pose, the twist that we're seeing in the upper and the lower torso, the relationship between them. It's really lovely. Let's find our center line coming out this way, right? Coming down just like so. And tummy. Slight protrusion there. The center line tells us everything. I cannot emphasize enough how important finding that center line is. Like, look at just finding it for the navel, from the navel down here, how it helps develop form and volume and mass. And up here, how it helps inform the relationship between that upper and that lower torso and how they're twisted. Without that center line, we don't have those frames of reference. Just massively important. Coming down oblique, coming down iliac crest. This pose is foreshortening. Well, maybe just the dusting of it, just for you, Rick. Yeah, I would seriously consider it, Mila. Yeah, yeah. Then just get in touch with them. Quality Content asks, just recently started figure drawing. Do you have any advice on how to shade with graphite pencils? I have a hard time getting good results in shading with them. Well, one thing is, yeah, well, whether you're shading with graphite or with charcoal, I think that the advice is essentially the same, which is sorry, hold your pencil the way I'm holding it, have a decent amount of lead or graphite exposed, right? See the way I've got like half an inch here or so, maybe even a little bit more. And look at the way I'm working with the side of the pencil. If you kind of like, if you adopt more of this type of process, you'll get a lot of that shading for free. A lot of those ideas for shading will kind of come intuitively, just by virtue of the way that you're literally holding your pencil. Otherwise, if you're holding it like handwriting style, it's not that you can't do it, but it's going to be a much trickier kind of process. So yeah, I would really advise that you consider that. I have a video on my channel called, I think it's called Possibly the Most Important Lesson I'll Ever Give, where I talk about how to hold a pencil. If you're curious, that could be a really good place to start to kind of understand this concept on a slightly deeper level. Oh, you saw the video already. Awesome. Great. Well, then hopefully you can see the correlation to what we're talking about with shading, right? They kind of come hand in hand. Not valid for stylus digital pencils. No, 100% not. Well, until the tech companies develop a stylus, but we're not talking about digital drawing, really. And if we, once again, you can take, here's the thing, drawing, holding the pencil like this will literally rewire your brain. And then you will take a lot of those ideas into your digital workflow. Even if you can't work literally like this, it's a lot of ideas from learning to draw like this that you will be able to then transfer over. But frankly, drawing digitally is like sword fighting with a dull blade. I just don't know why you would impose such a restriction on yourself. Well, you see, the thing is, it will... Drawing with holding the pencil like this, you will notice very quickly that you're drawing essentially with your arm and not from your wrist. You're drawing from the shoulder and the elbow. You'll tend to notice, I think, that there's very little wrist movement in what I'm doing. Which means I'm also kind of subconsciously, I'm thinking in large ideas. I'm not thinking like, when we're holding the pencil, handwriting style, we tend to think in smaller ideas. In one of your videos, you said that you're an artist for a job. What kind of art do you do to support your life? Well, up until about a year ago now, I would say, I worked in animation. I was an animation artist, designer, art director, that type of thing. So yeah, I spent 35 years working in the film industry, working on animated films. In an era, pre-digital, where all of the features were hand-drawn as well, and hand-drawn on paper. And I've seen the transition from analog to digital. Not only seen, been an active part of that kind of transition. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm coming from. That's my context. Every time that lead snaps, my heart breaks. Yours and mine both. Strange brew. It's funny. All right, let's do before we do. Can you name me one movie you worked on? Sure. Depends where you want me to. But I've worked on a lot of movies. Most recently, I worked on Space Jam 2, and the most recent movie was one called Disenchanted, which was a sequel to Enchanted with Amy Adams, which I also worked on. That one I worked on back in 2007. In the 90s, I worked at DreamWorks on Prince of Egypt, El Dorado, Sinbad. What was the other one? Spirit. And then going back as far as the late 80s, working on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and starting off working on films like Thumbelina and stuff like that at Bluth back in the early 90s. So there you go. Many more than that. Many more. I forget exactly how many films I've worked on. I think maybe 17, 18, I think. Take care, art and handwriting family. Take care. So we're just going to find some of our tone. I didn't know you worked in DreamWorks. That's really cool. Yeah, from 97 to 2002, basically on all of the hand-drawn films. And then they made the transition to digital after 2002, after Sinbad. And I left the studio at that point. And we actually moved back to Europe for about a year and a half at that point, thinking I was done with animation forever. And then a year and a half later, we moved back to LA. And then I made the transition into digital. And I think at that point that I was like, okay, I need to learn Photoshop and, you know, Maya and things like that. Started training in some of those. Some stuck more than others. Some were a better fit than others. And then that's when I really kind of got into doing concept art and eventually art directing and all of that. So there you go. But the DreamWorks years, I would say, is when I probably learnt the most. You know, just working with a pack of killers, and it was a case of you just had to keep up, you know. And I had some great teachers at that period too. So it was a real, those 5 years were a real kind of awakening, let's say, for me in many ways. Because I've been already working in animation nearly 10 years when I went to DreamWorks, but like a massive wake-up call in the best way possible. It was so exciting. Yeah, a lot of fun. Richard is also a busker in front of Buckingham Palace. No, but I have busked, Rick. I could tell you some stories, man. Jesus. You've no idea. You've no idea. I could tell you some stories about busking. Around the time I worked for Blue from the early 90s and being a hippie, busking on Grafton Street on Paddy's Day, busking with drums and having to deal with drunks, like aggressive drunks. But there's another angle to this story which I'm not going to get into today. But yeah, man, I've done my time. I've done my time on the streets. Yeah, no, not right now. There are some stories, Rick, as you very well know, that are to only be told under the sanctity of alcohol. And that is one of them. All right. Just a little bit of colouring in here. Stories. No, not right now. I'm not telling that story. Just because there's a part to that story that really gives it context, which I really don't want to discuss on the stream. But it really gives the story all the context. So, yeah. Anyway, let's leave it there. And then there's the time I got barred for life from a pub in Dublin, which, by all accounts, was the event leading up to me getting barred for life from the pub was actually filmed by a guy called Dean, a friend of mine, who he has the whole thing on tape somewhere. And that's another story in its own right. And then I tried to go back to that pub about 2 years later, and it was a packed Friday night, and about 2 years had passed, and I walk in the door and the barman's just like, "Get out." I couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe he remembered. So there you go. We all need to meet up one day and get drunk together. Yeah, that sounds like it could be a fun old time. All right, just need to get everyone to fly to Europe, so that's just the tricky part with that. But yeah. Well, if we ever meet in person, I'll tell the stories. And then, yeah, something to look forward to. All right, let's do some blending here. Where are we at? 22 minutes. Obviously a bit quicker than the last one. So that's nice. All right. And let me know ahead of time, because I got to get a passport. Margie, my advice would be for you to get a passport regardless. I don't think that's a bad strategy to have a way out. But yeah, we'll give you time, don't worry. Yeah, I kind of was expecting this one to go a little longer, but I think I'm pretty much done. All right. I think I'm going to leave this one here. Hammy. Okay, to find the reference photos, you are going to need to go to a link which is actually on YouTube. So if you go to my channel on YouTube and you go to the community chat, you will see a link in the community chat. I think like first post down, you will see a link to the reference being hosted on my website. I'm sorry it seems like a convoluted way to do it. It actually makes a lot of sense in the big scheme of things, but I do appreciate it probably feels a little convoluted. It's the only way I can keep management on who has access to the photos. Now, if you're wondering where that community tab is, if you're on my website, on the front page, you just scroll down, you'll see it says live stream FAQ. Click that link and go down to the how do I find the reference, and you'll find a link to the community chat in there. There you go. The left hand is intentional, or you forget? It kind of essentially intentional. I think if you just draw that little bit of hand, it's actually just not bringing anything to the table. I think the whole thing is stronger without it as a silhouette. And I have a whole kind of philosophy about these things, because you're always going to have angles or poses where you can see just a little bit of something, like perfect case in point, her hand here, her left hand. Now, either let's see it or don't, but this kind of like, if you draw that, what are you drawing? You're drawing a few bumps that are not essentially nondescript. You'd almost be better pushing one way or the other with the hand. Show it more or show it less. But showing it this amount doesn't help the drawing. We've had this discussion before. All evidence suggests Lulu is a guy. Okay? Now, none of us can be completely sure about anything in life. That is far as all the evidence has pointed for me. It suggests that Lulu is, despite the name, the very confusing name, Lulu is a guy. So there you go. The more you know. Maybe you could change your name to Mr. Dank Lulu. Dank. All right. I'm on YouTube watching on my desktop and opened your site to find the photos on iPad. Well, you're assuming that your iPad has access to YouTube. It should obviously be the same thing. Just go to the community chat on YouTube on your iPad and click the link, and that will bring you to the link on my website, which I then strongly suggest that you bookmark. And you'll be able to see the reference on your iPad, and you'll be able to watch the stream on your computer. Make sense? Many thanks, Richard. You're very welcome, Lulu. Lulu. Up, Lulu. Lulu. Okay, glad we got that resolved. Lulu's a girl from a game I used to play. Turns bad guys into fluffy animals. Rest if your team pummels them into a bloody ball. You didn't need to tell me. I knew that. Okay. Next pose. Awesome, Hammy. Look, sorry it seems like... I'm guessing your name is Sammy. I'm going to call you Hammy because that's what you have on your thing. Who am I to, you know, buck convention, so to speak. Alright, is that straight? Straight enough. Don't tell me you're a fairy. Who? Lulu or me? Tell you with some confidence that I am not. Not that there's anything wrong with it if that's what you're into. You know, just saying. Alright. Hold on, I need to clean my hand here. Like Monica, Mr. Dank. Demands my respect. Dankness. The Dankmeister. Let's flip my initials. I figured as much. Alright, I'll call you Sam then. Or Sammy. I don't mind. Or Hannah. I mean, a lot of the guys who want an animation are Omega Furry, so yeah. Well, there's a bold statement of horse crap, if I may say so myself, Lulu, but, you know, you go throwing around crazy statements. It's fine. I don't care. Okay, next pose. And let me reset the clock. There we go. Oh, is that right? Alright, well you know things I don't. We'll leave it there. Well, once again, very little in the way of foreshortening. The humerus is going to be, actually, no, it's going to be about here. Anyway, we'll come back to that. Iliac crest is sitting about here. think this is going to be about here. I may end up shifting it slightly, but hoping the foot doesn't go any further than that. I think that's probably about right. Anyway, we'll push and pull as need be. We only foreshorten part of the drawing, which is a forearm. How is the scapula so visible with her arm that much forward? Variance from model to model is insane. Well, as I see it, yeah, the scapula is kind of sitting in here. Would you say it's super visible? I think it's quite subtle. No? Am I missing something? Deltoid is going to be sitting in there. Sternocleidomastoid. Her ear is sitting here. Jawline. Something like that, right? And we can't, obviously her hair is going across her face, which is going to probably read as quite confusing for our purposes. Might almost be better off kind of suggesting that where the eye socket is there, even though we can't see it, because otherwise it can just look really weird. Her hair higher. See, she's on this plinth, which is going to be relevant, considering this foot is lower. So I'm going to say her leg is about that long. Calf coming down. Excuse me. Her other knee sitting about here. Excuse me. And once again, I'm going to just leave anything that we can see of her left arm off. So it's just going to invisible. Okay. Yes, that makes more sense, Lulu. Well, I think that it's because it's pulled forward in this direction, it tends to take the form of the rib cage more, if that makes sense. Okay, let's see here. This seems like as good a place as any to start our journey. Once again, we got a long line, right, coming from the hip here all the way down to the knee. So we want to be thinking about direction change. Something like that. And we can see her tummy just sitting in here. Exactly. Exactly, Lily. You got it. Okay. A lot of long lines, right? So we're going from real subtle transitions here, from gluteus to the sacrum slash oblique to the long line of the back, which we do not want to just curve. Something like that. A lot of direction change. All right. All right. There we go. See that foot now. Okay. Once again, the really important kind of concept of drawing behind the form, or at least visualizing behind the form. Say this leg coming from here, I need to think about where that mass is. Where does that calf actually start? Back here, right? And then coming down this way. Something like that. That's super important to draw or visualize where something's come from, where it's going to, even if we can't see it, right? Do you do these demonstrations often? Yes, yes, twice a week. Yeah, we do these Mondays and Thursdays, 5 o'clock London time, GMT. Every Monday and Thursday. And if you go to my website, which you'll find a link in below, it'll tell you all about the streams and how you can follow along and all of that kind of stuff, how you can become a member. And then you can draw along if you'd like to. Okay, so I'm at a point now where, actually, before I do, I was going to say I'm going to switch to doing some tonal, but I just want to get a little bit more hair design in here. This hair takes up a lot of real estate, and it's really it's you know, we want to kind of at least break up this large shape a little bit if we can. Be careful with it, but don't need to go nuts. We're not trying to draw every hair. We can't really see it much anyway, but we do want to just kind of break up the large shapes just a little bit. We will be obviously filling it with tone as well, so yeah, so the one thing I'm kind of doing a little bit of a cheat on is in the reference, her hair is draped over this eye and kind of comes down this way, and it's just going to look super weird to draw it that way. If that makes sense. So I'm just kind of suggesting where the indent of her eye is. It's a small thing. 5 to 9. Usually 2 hours. Kalinkassu. People are so creative with their names. I don't know if it's the cough syrup or quitting social media, but my attention span is up. It's the changing cough syrup brands for sure. It's a busker, always a busker. Rick, thank you, sir. You're a gentleman and a scholar, I assume. Okay, let's put some tone on this sucker. I actually have some very subtle light going on here. Let's see what we can do to hopefully get some of this down. I've got a lot of noise in here. I feel like I should be pulling that out just a little bit first. That'll help. Okay. I won't say I'm exaggerating what I'm seeing on the reference, but I'm certainly trying to push it as far as I can within the boundaries of not breaking it, because it's some of these transitions are very, very subtle in the reference. And I think if we drew them just as is, yeah, we get there, but I feel like, you know, I want to be a little bit more deliberate, if that makes sense. Find the square of the shoulder here. Are you in London? Am I in London? Yes, Chris, I'm in London. Well, just outside London. I'm in a little town about 25 minutes north of London on the train. A town called St. Albans. You can look it up. It has quite a history. One of the oldest market towns in the country. In fact, I believe it might be the oldest market town in the country, and has quite a few historic buildings where I think like someone like Oliver Cromwell spent his last night before being brought to London to be hanged. And the inn, which I actually stayed at when we first moved back from the States. And yes, got some history. Not that it will be home for too much longer because we're going to move this year, but for now. And we will inevitably move further away from London. So probably to either Somerset or Devon would be my guess at this point in time. If the calf attaches above the knee as you alleged, what's going on here? I'm not seeing it. It's not an alleged fact. It has to, right? If you think about it, like just think about what the knee does, or what the calf does. It has to be attached to the femur, right? It has to be attached above the knee. And you are seeing it here. If the knee joint is here, and we could imagine that we could see this attachment point to the femur, which is sitting in here, that's above the knee. It's happening in this quadrant, not down here, right? Right? There you go. Now we do have some cast shadow coming down in here. Sitting in there. Yeah, look, we'll I don't have my, maybe I could use this. Normally I'd like to show this on the iPad. Hold on, I'm gonna just show you some anatomy here. Just give me a second. Hopefully you're going to be able to see this. Let me go close up. Okay. Now this is as good as I can get because normally I would be showing this on my iPad. Okay. There's our knee. In fact, let me turn on connective tissue. There we go. Okay, can you see this? There's the kneecap sitting right there. Now if I rotate the form, Well, can you see the calf muscles? There's our kneecap right there. Can you see these calf muscles back here? Right, that's clear, right? So each head of the calf is attaching to the femur, which we can see there. You can kind of see it highlighted in green, right? So if I just out of, let's just hide a few things here. Let's hide that. Can you see that now? There's our femur. That's where the kneecap is, right there, the patella. Well, that's the under the patella, actually. That's the, what's it called? Pre-patella bursa. But yeah, so now you can get a sense of how the calf muscle attaches right above the knee. Makes sense? What app is that? And is it free? No, it's not free. It's called Essential Anatomy 5, Thomas. It's my go-to anatomy app. I use that over the books. I just find it superior. But it's like probably about €25. You're in Ireland, right? €25, give or take. Well worth it, in my opinion. Oh, of course. I knew I would forget to switch the camera back. Eureka! Hope that makes sense, Rick. Well, it has to make sense, right? Like, there's no, as I said, it's not my opinion that the calf attaches above the knee. It's just a fact. But it's good to see it, right? It's good to see it in context. That's why I find those apps so incredibly invaluable, because the fact that you can rotate the form, you can see, you can look, you can turn on and off muscles, you can get as close as you like and really see with absolute clarity what's going on. There's no ambiguity. You know, so many of these anatomy books, you know, you're looking at it from one angle, you might have a couple of angles, but you can't get in there, you know. There's always kind of a bit of a compromise. The anatomy app is, in my opinion, it's so far superior in that respect. So for anyone that's serious about learning anatomy, strongly encourage that you consider getting the app. They don't pay me. But like Generals, if they would like to sponsor the podcast, that would be awesome. I think I've sent a few customers Essential Anatomy's way. All right, I think we're getting close here. Just hit this with a bit of kneaded eraser and we'll move on to our last pose. We've actually made pretty good time today, I think, for the most part. and I don't ever fail to nerd out over that app. Look, yeah, I wouldn't recommend it if I couldn't say with hand on heart how useful it's been for me in just demystifying. Because there are plenty of anatomy books that are flat out wrong, or not as good as they could be. It's just a reality. So yeah, it's. So definitely worth, in my opinion, if you're serious, it's definitely worth the investment into the app. All right, I think I'm going to call it with this particular pose. Good enough. Just because I do want to leave us with enough time to finish up. Here's the thing, Theo. You're asking for the impossible. There is not a single formula on how to draw the glutes from any angle. A one-size-fits-all formula doesn't exist. But there's a concept that you can think about that might help. Okay, very, very quickly. If we're looking at from the back at the gluteus, right? Back view. Okay. We can find the sacrum, right? Sitting about here. And we know, we can find the sacral dimples, which will usually help us understand the axis of the pelvis, right? From the back. The front, we use the asus. From the back, we can use these sacral dimples. That also tells us that the iliac crest is going around this way and this way, right? And going around, and if we could see it, if our form was glass, we'd see these iliac crests go around the form, and they would come to the front, and then they would meet at that asus here and here, right? Come down inguinal ligament down to the pubic bone, etc. We're not going to get into that. We're looking at it from the back. But if we can find this sacral triangle here, right? We know, as I said, that the iliac crest is coming off this way and this way, and then we know from the bottom of this sacral triangle, we're going to have the gluteus separate, one coming this way and obviously one coming this way. Now, I like to think about it the way that we teach it, and the way that we can kind of think about it is, I like to, and this is, hopefully this will be kind of what will answer your question to some degree, is we want to think about what is essentially this upside down butterfly motif, sitting like this and sitting like this. Look at the way that helps bring structure to this idea. Now, we know that this is gluteus medius sitting in here, and this is gluteus maximus sitting in here, right? But we can think of it as a single idea. We also know that at this point here is where the femur attaches to the pelvis. We actually know if we came out here, the great trochanter will be sitting about here. Our femur will be going down in this direction, down to the knee joint down here. And this is why this area in here tends to be the widest part of, especially on females, more than so than males, but that tends to be the widest part of the hips, right? But this butterfly motif, now it doesn't work from every angle, but it's a really good way of subdividing and starting to think about a shape language that we can prescribe to the gluteus, right? And from here we know then, just by obviously from deduction of logic, the obliques are going to be sitting on top of the iliac crest here and here. And now we've managed to connect our upper torso and our lower torso using this iliac crest as kind of our connection point between the two, right? And so on and so forth. That makes sense? So hopefully, and then if you take this just as a very simple idea and we start thinking about core shadow, how can we start to give volume and mass to this? Well, let's say I start thinking about my core shadow sitting in here, maybe something like this, right? Cast shadows sitting in here, coming down, our glutes coming down this way, something like that. Maybe on this side, the core shadow is doing something like this, right? And we can start to fill this with tone, right? But you can see how important a role even that tone and that core shadow help describe the form. Gluteus maximus obviously going down the iliotibial tract, meeting up with the iliotibial tract on this side, also from the tensor fasciolati at the front, etc., etc. Make sense? Good. All right, next pose. Last pose. Gluteus maximus and gluteus medius. Yes. Are two generals from Gladiator. Okay, I'm just going to clean my hand quickly. All right, and funnily enough, we're going to be revisiting a lot of those ideas that I just talked about with this pose, because this is a back view, not a million miles from what we just drew. So there you go. All right, let me reset the clock. We're probably not going to go more than about 15 on this one, would be my guess. This last pose was tricky. Now you're talking in past tense there, and yet we have not started the last pose. Oh, you mean the last pose that we just did? The side view, not the last pose. Yes. Yeah, it wasn't simple, right? Upper torso. Now, the difference between the demo I just did and this is obviously there's a lot more it's a lot more going on here. Yeah, no problem, Theo. Hope that helps, man. Okay. So yes, just to kind of revisit that idea, you're going to see we're doing a back view. Our model is sitting here. Rib cage is sitting here. And once again, what's the first thing I look for? I'm looking for the sacrum and the sacral dimples sitting here and here, because this is going to help tell me where my iliac crest is. It's sitting here. If I thought I could have just done all of that explanation with this pose, but there you go. You get to see it twice. You see I'm using that upside down butterfly motif just to help subdivide and just bring some shape dynamics. See how on this side, because we got a stretch, can't really see the oblique at all, coming very subtly down this way. Something like that. Okay, this arm, scapula sitting about here. And this arm is coming down. Look at the compression we have right here. Can't see this scapula, it's very, very quiet, but we know it's there, so we're going to draw it. Something like that. Our wrist is about here. So deltoid sitting in here, and then our tricep, a lovely curve on that tricep coming down this way. Coming down to our elbow, sitting in here. So our elbows about here. I did not leave enough room for the feet. Okay, good enough. Oh. This track television and the stream track, it does tend to work that way, doesn't it? I need to really mix up the playlist. It's become a little too predictable. No, it's funny. Once again, I find from these types of poses, these core shadows for the glutes really are super important for helping describe form and helping subdivide. Richard, are you ignoring foreshortening of right gluteus? You know, maybe I am. If yes, why? Because I wasn't thinking. That's why. You're absolutely right. We can pull it in. Yeah, I've done it far too kind of straight on. You are right. Well, let's fix it. Probably be about there. And we'll just pull that line out, and that's probably could have even pulled it a little more, truth be told. But I think that'll work. See, people keeping me honest. This. It's probably somewhere about there. Fun to have an easy day. Yeah, I think so. It's even smaller. All right. You're right. You're right. It is almost 1 to 2, 100%. This is where we're at. What am I going to do? Mila, busting my balls. What can you say? Yeah, they are quiet poses. Although they've been definitely tricky, right? But it's nice just to have a little slight change of pace. I figured, you know, when I was picking these, I just figured we've just done a lot of, feels at least to me, like we've just done a lot of hard poses lately. And for those who are not necessarily as familiar with those trickier poses, seemed like it would be a nice change of pace. I'm going to try and do it a little bit more often, where I make a conscious effort to pick poses that just, you know, don't necessarily have a ton of foreshortening kind of challenges or that type of thing. I've really enjoyed the poses today. Yeah, James. Yeah, good. I'm glad. Yeah, me too. Yeah, they've been fun, right? All right, let's thank you, Tina. But also, I think maybe it does bring up another point, and it's not to say that you're not right in your analysis, Mila, but I would also say it is a case of we don't need to necessarily make a completely literal interpretation of the reference that we're working from for us to quote unquote sell what it is that we're doing. So yeah, I do think that there's something to be said for that. We don't want to also do, he says, because it's very convenient for his particular situation, is we don't want to just be slaves to the reference. I would much rather something was not necessarily following the reference exactly, but there was that build up of ideas, right? Anatomical ideas, volumetric ideas, than to be striving for a literal interpretation of what it is that we see. That's my excuse, and I'm sticking to it. I do think we get away with it in this case. Richard, what is more important, learning perspective and foreshortening, or learning body proportions and basic shapes? Is one more important than the other? No, it's all important, Cookie. Please don't try and think that there's a hierarchy into the importance, especially between such major things that you're talking. Like, we could create a list of things that are more important than others, but you just mentioned 4 massively important things that I would argue are all required in the successful execution of a drawing, and I don't think there's any shortchanging that. Perspective and foreshortening, massive subject, right? Proportion, massive subject. Shape language, massive subject. All of those things are important. Take one of those away, and we're starting to lose our way, right? Potentially. But in saying that, I wouldn't worry. I think all of those things that you've just asked about there will all come in time as you draw and as you develop your skill set. And if you're drawing regularly and you're drawing with intention, there's no reason why you shouldn't acquire understanding in each one of those areas. Okay. I think that feels like a pretty good place to call it, actually. We could, if you just wanted to you did want to go kind of one step further, very easily put some reflected light in, say, there, for example. We want to get, just kind of go to the next level with the tone and the shadow side of the form. We could find some of this bounce light here and there by just pulling out some of our tone. Right. But I think we're in a pretty good place here. I think it's a good place to call it. Call it done. Right? I think so. Guys, that was a good session, right? For a Monday. We had, our expectations were low, and yet I think we pulled it off. Okay. We made it. Guys, we will be doing this all again on Thursday at the same time. It's still a mystery as to what we will draw. I might continue the theme of keeping some relatively easy poses. I've got to admit, I enjoyed the hell out of these, and it was a nice break. I'm inclined to do a bit more of that. Let's see. Then again, you know what it's like. The sadistic side of me does tend to come out when I'm picking poses, and I go, oh yeah, that one looks like a challenge. Only to regret it myself, because it's not like I pick these for you and not do them and just watch you guys. So yeah, anyway, I'm rambling, so I'm going to go. Hold on for a second, please. Yeah, I can hold on just for a second. Were there any other questions? I don't think so. Oh yeah, do me a favor. hit the like button if you would on your way out. Much appreciated. If there's something or a subject that you would like us to cover, please feel free to leave it in the comments below. Comment sections on these videos tend to be quite lonely place on occasion. So, you know, comments in the body of the video is always appreciated. I also think it helps the algorithm. So even if you just want to say, hey, that was a fun video, it actually would help get eyeballs. All right. I've rambled for far too long. I am going to go now. Hopefully I haven't missed anything important. But guys, I will see you all on Thursday. We'll do it all over again. All right? Okay. In the meantime, take care of yourselves. All right? I'll see you Thursday. Cheers, guys.